here that I'm friends with, and I've gotten to spend some time. But just maybe hear a couple of you. Are you guys students? Are you guys working? Have you been to a Hare Krishna temple before, or kind of what is some of your guys' backgrounds here? Just so I know how to, I guess, lead the presentation. Maybe.
I can start maybe.
Sure.
So I graduated university about a year and a half ago. So right now I'm in the crux of the working world. So it's been about a year and a half since I've left university.
So you're feeling the pressure of the work life and everything that comes along with that now.
I honestly thought that school was great and everything, but then I was like, well, once you start working, like you wouldn't really need to worry about assignments or whatever. Guys, it is not fun. We'll just put it that way. But,
yeah, more pressure comes along now of just the everyday grind, and it goes on for some time, but you have lots more freedom, and I see you're also taking on more services in our bhakti culture, which is very nice. So good on you. Keep up the good work. And maybe just one more. I see someone on the screen that I haven't met. Dula, Hare Krishna. Nice to have you here. Maybe you could just give us a little introduction of yourself, or where you're coming from, and are you a student or working?
Hare Krishna. I'm a student. I'm doing my second degree in computer science in Vancouver. So I've been having a lot of course load, a lot of assignments and tests, and I totally messed up my sleep schedule. So
well, thank you so much for making it. That's wonderful. It seems like you have a lot of pressure coming in, but you know what they say, when there's lots of pressure, this can create diamonds. So whatever you're doing will definitely help you advance in the future and make into something precious and very valuable. And now you're also taking time to come to some programs where there's spiritual atmosphere and discussions going on, and that'll definitely benefit you for all aspects of your life. So thank you for coming, and everyone else who's here. I see my good friend Amit Prabhu. So nice to see you. And
if I could say one thing about Mandala, I've known him because I went to law school in Ottawa, and I used to run into him quite often in the temple. So this February, I actually stayed in with one of my friends. She's like 50 something. She was like the deputy director of Health Canada before going to law school. So Mandala drops me off at her place because I was staying there. And then, the thing I really like about Mandala is like he was in traditional clothing. He did not mind going into a white Anglo-Saxon household, and like when I'm at a household like that, I'm always like I usually don't bring up religion or things like that. But Mandala steps in wearing traditional clothing and mentions, I think my friend offers him wine, and then he politely refuses, and then brings up Bhagavad Gita, and I'm like, man, that takes a lot of courage and at the same time politeness. So I'm really impressed by Mandala's conviction and like his willingness to preach to crowds that even honestly I would feel reluctant about. So good for you, man.
Hare Krishna. And I think I brought in the Trojan horse into her house, which was halava. We brought in we had some prasadam left over from the program earlier. So I brought that into the house, and I think we served them a couple different bowls of halava, and then I went on my way. So hopefully that served them well. And yeah, that's the secret weapon of the devotees, is to bring prasadam and spiritual food that changes people's hearts, and it's a good opener as well. So thank you, Prabhu, for that reminder. And anyways, I guess we'll dive into the topic of today, which Radhapriya asked me to speak on the topic of breaking bad habits. And yesterday when I was chanting, I was just meditating on that fact of breaking bad habits. It's very hard, difficult thing to do. So simultaneously, while we're breaking those bad habits, we actually have to build good habits as well. And I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, but it's the world. It's the crest jewel of India's spiritual knowledge and timeless knowledge, which is relatable even now. It's a 5,000-year-old wisdom literature that people look towards for guidance. And in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the 59th verse, there's a point that Krishna brings up that's very relevant to this topic of breaking bad habits. And it's, I'll just summarize it for y'all, but it goes like this, that if one ceases such engagements for sense gratification, some might be bad, they can give those activities up only by developing a higher taste. So in our day-to-day life, we may come across certain activities that we've just become conditioned to over years of doing it, whether it's video games or sitting back, chilling, watching Netflix, and maybe rather than we should be studying or investing time with our family, these things that are maybe more meaningful and fulfilling to ourselves. This is how we should spend our time. And to break those bad habits, some may even be worse. Growing up in the West, I'm sure everyone here has grown up in the West and seen the Western mentality that it's the real goal of life is to enjoy. And there's so many parties that go on, drinking, smoking. I guess grass is legal in Canada now, and some of these things are really take away from our higher self. They crave for our attention and really pull us towards a lifestyle that is really limits us, and we have to somehow discern what is actually best for us. And these lower urges or these lower pulling of the senses ultimately don't bring this sense of satisfaction and peace and integrity that we can stand up and say that I'm living a clean lifestyle, or I'm living an ideal lifestyle. So we have to somehow learn how to develop a higher taste, and ultimately the only way to do that is through taking time and developing having a spiritual practice throughout the day. And it can be something as simple as just cracking open the Bhagavad Gita and reading a verse, or many of you may not know, but just reading a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, reading the black bold text, only takes about 10-15 minutes out of one's day. And this type of activity, it really gives one some spiritual fortitude and some inner strength to perceive the world in a way that is different from the social media news feed that is constantly bombarding us, or the 24-hour news cycle, if any of you guys listen to that. It really gives us a clear perspective of reality, and in the spiritual sense that that I'm actually above the pulling of the senses, how the mind is constantly changing, and inherently the senses are attracted to sense objects. So by making one point, I just wanted to make a couple points here to, I guess, some takeaways that hopefully everyone can apply and maybe just try to be aware of to implement in their life and put themselves in a advantageous situation where they can feel themselves strong enough to break those bad habits that may come in many different forms. Everyone has their own crux that's really holding them back, but as long as we become aware of them and then take proper steps where we can cut the ties of those attachments or conditions, then we'll be free to open ourselves up for better activities that are more conducive for our overall growth, development, and overall well-being. So one, and I'm sure maybe many of you come from devotee families or somehow are connected to the devotional circle or the Krishna consciousness movement. But we always hear association. And from my own experience growing up, I grew up far away from temples, actually. I was about in between 2 hours or 3 hours from Ottawa and 2 hours from Toronto. So we just grew up in a small town. And there's nothing to really do in a small town other than get in trouble. So, we would do a whole bunch of nonsense, let's say. And my friends are still caught up in that cycle, actually. But I really found the power of association was so valid in that sense that all my friends where I grew up in Peterborough, near Peterborough, all they wanted to do, they just had this really small-minded consciousness that, let's just go party, let's go drink, let's go do this. And that's what they're pulling you to do. And almost you feel like, I don't have any other option. What else is there to do, actually? There's no higher taste. There's no higher reality of existence for what is there to do, no activities. So somehow I got sprung out of that association, like Radha Priya said in the beginning, that I somehow had the good fortune of having association of devotees, and Bhaktimarga Swami, some of you may know, he's known my family since before I was born, and he's so lovingly invited me to come to India and spend time with him and actually get the experience of what Krishna consciousness has to offer, because I grew up in Krishna consciousness also, but or my family had this culture. We had deities in the house. My mom would offer prasadam, say the mantras, but still I had no inclination to it. I thought, this is mumbo jumbo. You hear of this type of talk growing up, but I guess then when we start to develop a sense of self, and somehow if we just get through high school or get through our studies, this big social pressures from friends and so on and so forth, we can develop a sense of self, and then we can see, okay, what am I actually inclined towards? What do I have? What are my stance on, I guess, morality, or what are my values? And definitely adding, this is one thing I can glorify my mother for, was always trying to encourage spiritual values in life, was something that really protected me throughout my teens and growing up. And just that little drop of spiritual values, spiritual motivation throughout my life kept me away from becoming the biggest rascal, actually. And then beyond that, being open to taking advantage of good association as devotees, or people who have these higher values in life, these more also values that help cultivate a regulated lifestyle. This is so important, to have a regulated lifestyle. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at that. There's definitely ways of improvement, but at least having a structured practice every day, whether it's my wife Purvi, she has the best routines in the morning where she'll get up, she'll you know, brush her teeth, freshen up, she'll grab the japa bag, she'll chant, whether it's one round or however many rounds that one has prescribed themselves, and then, you know, she may do some other routines, but just being so structured in this way really gives one, you know, clear-cut guidance to not falling into the bad habits that that are so easy to go into through just maybe being lazy or whatnot. So that's a little bit about association, that these association can either uplift you or drag you down. So to be aware of that is essential in also breaking bad habits, because the bad association will, you know, pull you more towards those lower inclinations or bad habits, and good association will say, that's not right for me, that's not right for you, let's go do something else that's more conducive. And then that leads to the point of keeping the mind engaged in positive engagement. There's a saying that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And for anyone who, all of you are, I can see you're very progressive, you're doing your higher studies, some may be working, you're keeping the mind constantly engaged. But I have many friends that I grew up with that they didn't have this sort of structure, or they didn't come from good families that gave them, I guess, a roadmap to success. They just said, figure it out on your own. So then they'll become lethargic, lazy, laid back, thinking, you know, it's cool just to hang out. But ultimately that gets one in trouble, because the mind isn't engaged in positive activity. It starts, you know, getting up to mischief. And as we know, as in the Aboriginal aphorism, that there's the good dog and the bad dog, and the good dog is sometimes, it barks like this, woof, 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 and the bad dog is woof, woof, woof. So you hear the bad dog is much louder, and it's always you know, craving for attention and seeking attention, and going to voice itself much louder. So we have to learn to put a muzzle on it and, you know, listen to this good dog, which will guide us to better habits in our lives. So we may have touched on this a little bit, but just this spiritual practice that one may develop for breaking bad habits. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna that there's these different, I guess, means of enjoyment. There's the means of enjoying in the mode of goodness. So one's mind is much more peaceful. It's conducive towards, I guess, pious activities and engaged in a proper way. Then there's the enjoyment in the mode of passion, and then mode of ignorance. And he gives the example that that when one is, I guess, enjoying the lower taste, it may seem nectar in the beginning, but ultimately poison in the end. I'm sure none of you have tried drinking, because you're all very pure souls, but in the case that it has happened, you can see that, you know, one may be out with their friends and indulge in this, and the next morning your head is pounding, you feel sick, you feel totally out of commission. And in the beginning you thought this was going to be enjoyable, it's going to be nectar, it's going to be lots of fun, but ultimately it wound up being not so nice, poisonous for the body, and poison for the mind. It's not conducive for this higher development and, I guess, progressive thinking. So, and then he gives the opposite, saying that which seems like poison in the beginning, but actually amounts to nectar in the end. And this is, it's because there may be some austerity involved in the beginning of one's spiritual practice, whether it's reading or just taking some time to just even chant a few mantras a day, or one whole round on the Japamala. Then it's really hard to just focus the mind and take time to actually chant or do some type of meditational mindfulness practice. It's really hard to control the mind. The mind is known as chanchalam, chanchalam, that it's flickering always. It's going back and forth, and to control it, Arjuna says it's harder to control than the wind. But by constant practice and not being too attached to the instant results, then we can have a fortified, strong spiritual practice by just this incremental drip system of every day. Though many of you probably have heard of Prabhupada. He's the one who brought Krishna consciousness to the West about 50 years ago plus. And he would always say, drops a day wears the stone away. So we have many conditionings that are deep rooted and built up, but just by gradually adding some sort of spiritual practice in one's life, some sort of meditation practice, we'll start to feel those conditionings wearing away or becoming more smooth, smoothing down, and eventually we'll be able to break through them entirely. So it is a cultivation. It's an ongoing endeavor, and one has to stay fixed on the ultimate goal, that this is better for me. It'll guarantee me success and put me on the right path to leading a fulfilling, satisfying, wholesome lifestyle that's freed from anxieties, that's blissful, and that actually brings into our life real love, real gratitude, and people who also have deep love and gratitude for us. This is the benefit of spiritual association. So that's one point, to make time for spiritual practice, or even if that's hard, make time to put oneself into a spiritual atmosphere. So if you have a space in your home, some of you may come from devotee families where there's a temple, or I know in Vancouver, some of you may be in, there's a very nice, beautiful temple there, that if we can just make time once a week, twice a week, once every 2 weeks, depending on your schedule, just to go to a place like this, that this will keep one away from doing bad activities, or those bad habits that we're so prone to, and put one in a place where there's activities which are surcharged with the mode of goodness, where there's different service opportunities, where you can engage the mind in a positive way and feel enlivened through service. And as we know, the nature of the self is to serve others. And when we're aligned in that service mentality, this is actually the real wealth of life. And this is how we can really stay clear of those bad habits. And after, I have one more point, but after this, we'll maybe take some reflections from some of the assemblies to just expand and augment the conversation a little bit. But the last point I wanted to make was, vows are potent. So I'll say that again. Vows are potent. So when one takes a vow, or they make a proclamation that I'm not going to do this no matter what, or I'm going to stay away from this place no matter what. And if you do it in front of, say, one of your close friends, or even go in front of the deities maybe, and make this conscious, heartfelt prayer that I'm going to stay clear away from this. Even if somehow you've tried many times to give up these bad habits, which just seem impossible to break, as long as you stay close enough to the edge and you're willing to make a transformation in one's life, and you make this sincere proclamation that I want to change, then somehow you'll find that inner strength from the Lord within the heart to be able to overcome those challenges and break those deeply rooted anarthas, or those unwanted things that we have within our heart. And you'll find that fortification to really stand on your own 2 feet, to move away from those. I'll get a little personal with some of the devotees here, because I really found this point really exemplary in my life, because I had deeply rooted anarthas, with simple things. I don't know if I should get too specific, but I could not give them up. And maybe just because I was so attracted to them, but somehow I got the mercy from my spiritual master, Bhaktimarga Swami, and he actually said the statement that vows are potent, and I was not able to give up, let's say, some sort of intoxication, and it was hard, but he said, you have to take this vow, and no matter what, you stick to it. So in my heart of hearts, I already knew I wanted to get rid of these things, but I wasn't able to do it on my own. So just by taking some vows in front of an assembly of friends or devotees, somehow this transformation was made, and Krishna in the heart knew that I ultimately wanted to get rid of it. I didn't want to hold on to these things, because I knew it was better for me to cut it off. And from that day when I made those vows, and also the vows of initiation, which was no intoxication, chants, 16 rounds, so on and so forth, I stayed completely clear of these things. So I just see the efficacy of making goals for oneself and staying clear of those bad habits that we know are not beneficial towards us. We all want to go in the right direction. We all want to live a satisfying life. We want to be happy ultimately. And when we're dragged down by these bad habits, there's no going up. So we somehow, some way, have to figure out how to break those off, break the ties, and you have to become innovative. You are all very smart, progressive personalities. You all must come from good families that want to see you move forward in life. And if you can't do it on your own, ask for guidance. This Vaishnav culture, or this Bhakti culture, is a culture of guidance. So we have to be a little vulnerable sometimes, and be aware to share our weaknesses with others. And even if you'll see someone who may be advanced spiritually or materially or whatever, and they don't, and if they're not able to confide in someone and open their heart and reveal their struggles, then there's every chance that person will fall away or succumb to those bad habits or lower desires that may be hiding around. So we have to find someone who we can really confide in, and that we know will not judge us or hold anything against us, and that will only give us positive encouragement where we can get rid of those things that we don't want. So my advice is to find someone who can do that, whether it's your close peers or someone more senior to you. Actually, that's always the best way to go, because those people who are more senior and advanced, they have life experience which they can pass on, because they went through it all. They've been able to break those bad habits, and are constantly working on it, because it's not just a one-time thing, because we can see that those bad habits are able to surface or come back up to the surface eventually if we don't keep vigilant and maintain that purity in our lifestyle, and keep the mind positively engaged. So anyways, I'd maybe like to stop talking and hear some reflections or questions, or any thoughts that any of you, my fellow friends here, have, just to expand or augment the conversation and bring it into a new direction or an expanded direction. If anyone has anything they'd like to share. The great thing about sorry, please go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I said I can go first. I really, really, really appreciated and liked your talk. I liked the fact that it was very practical and it was extremely real, because sometimes I think that sometimes we try and ignore some of the things that happen because we're like, well, we know the philosophy and we're Krishna cautious. And I think the thing that really resonated with me was the statement that you made saying vows are potent. And, I was just thinking in Kartik or even in Purushottam's, where it said that make sure you do a little bit, make sure you think about a vow you want to take, or make sure you think about something that you want to commit yourself to, because the benefit that you get is like 10,000 or 100 times 1,000 greater than what you would get, on a normal day. And it's been really hard for me sometimes to be able to make sense of that or to understand that, because I don't think I can relate to it as well in terms of, it's like, well, if you do this in this month, you'll get benefit times this month. I understand that it's very potent, but I was just reflecting on that, because that is a piece of advice that I've always gotten, is just make sure in these 2 months that you do take up something that's a bit extra, whatever. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And that last point really resonated with me. So thank you. I think that's going to be my statement going forward. Vows are potent, which is really beautiful and it's really nice.
Yeah, I got that from Bhaktimarga Swami. I know that really sticks with me also. And thank you so much for bringing that up. It's kind of scary to take vows, isn't it? We all may struggle, because it's almost like once you take that vow, you got to do it. There's that saying, your word is your bond. So if you say you're going to do it, you better hold to it. And that's why we have to just, I guess, take on something that we can handle, not go overboard, but also not be too light on ourselves. We should.
Sorry, I
because,
muted you by mistake. I was trying to mute off the background noise.
No problem. That this austerity that we take on, whatever it may be, it'll benefit us, and that's the ultimate conclusion of this type of month like Kartik. You take on these vows, and it'll benefit you because you're taking these vows on for Krishna, and Krishna will pour the unlimited blessings on you through any austerities that you may perform on for him. But in general, we should try to, the significance here is when you take these vows for this month or 2 months, then hopefully you'll learn that, hey, I actually like doing this. This is actually part of my routine now. And then it'll just carry on into the next year, 2, 3, and then your whole lifetime. You'll keep those vows up, and you'll have more spiritual fortitude and strength to to see the world clearly and not become bewildered by the senses or the mind. And thank you so much for that. That was very nice reflection. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu and everyone else. I think what you were saying about having association and not just association, but good association, the people that actually uplift you, was definitely very powerful. We definitely hear that often. And I think the second point, which is always my favorite, is having a good mentor, right? Having somebody a little bit more senior than you that has these life experiences that can actually guide you. And it's not just a friend that's like patting you on the back. This person will be asking those deeper questions and trying to get to the root or your anattas and kind of bringing them up to the surface so you can actually dissect them, so you can actually improve on them, and then they can actually be a building block. I know for me, like personally, like I know Prabhu, you shared something personal about, about intoxications. I remember when I first joined ISKCON a few years ago, I joined maybe like beginning of the year, and by October, I was just joking around with some of my friends, and we were talking about vows, month of Kartik, and that time I was still eating meat, right? Because coming from an Italian household, it's very difficult to give up meat. And I said it like, okay, do you know what? For the month of Kartik, for 30 days, I'm going to give up meat. And I said it in front of my friends, and then I told my mentors. And since then, I have never eaten meat. And I think it's been like 10 years or 9 years. Yeah, so it was like, and it was so funny because I was like, no, I was telling so many people, I'm like, no, this is so difficult. I'll probably give up meat like in like another year or 2 years, yada, yada, yada. And my friend encouraged me, and it was like with that support of devotees and then with all my mentors, and that's kind of what really set the tone. But yeah, thank you for being so personal and sharing. And not so many people know that, yeah, I gave up meat so early on in Krishna consciousness, and it was because of Kartik. Who knows when I would have made a vow or something like that. So thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you for sharing. That was really nice personal experience. That's the proof. If you just make a small vow, and then you never know, it'll just carry on throughout one's life. And I really like the point that you said of having this association that can uplift us. I know we've been going on about that again and again, but I see you're so ecstatic. That's what we want, is ecstatic devotees who are going out and encouraging others and making friends. And my Bhaktimarga Swami, he always says, we don't do fundraisers, we do friend raisers. So we really want to be able to have a transference of the heart and actually give love to people. This is what people are needing in the world. And that's ultimately what's going to change the world from all of this Kali Yuga mentality. There's a lot of craziness going on in the States, and a lot of conflict and social unrest, that people are searching for something more. People are wanting to find a way to be happy, and they're investing their hearts in all the wrong things in these different movements. The mega movement, Make America Great Again. They're really pouring their hearts into this, but they're misdirecting their energy. And if they just find a way to serve others through proper capacity that's beneficial to them, people will be much more well off in life. So I think she had to leave, but that was a very nice antidote from Jessica. So yeah, the great thing about reflections is they're really easy, because it's just anything that you heard. I don't have to answer anything, but any reflections or questions. I think I heard someone speaking up. Please
Yeah, I mean, Mandala, if I could add to my reflection, like I'm far from perfect in my devotional life, and I have imperfections and vulnerabilities that, like, I know, like I'm far away from where I would like to be, but there's only few people or few devotees that I meet, maybe once in a year, that I feel comfortable sharing my imperfections. And these are the people that uplifts me. So, and I know like most of us are open-minded and accepting, and it's just when I find someone who will not judge me for my imperfection, it also like helps me to feel motivated. Whereas sometimes I feel like people who are a little judgy can't make me feel like it's not make me feel that I don't belong. So yeah, so I'm grateful to have people like you who make me feel that what, I could push a little extra in my devotional life.
Thank you, Prabhu, and thank you for being so open. Yeah, it's really important to find people like that, and it doesn't mean to just wear your heart on your sleeve and just be an open book and let everyone know the gossip in your life or what it may be. We definitely have to be aware of who we reveal our hearts to, because it could backfire if we're too open. So we have to find a specific group of people, and then have a place to vent to. And some people will definitely be more adapt to handle it or give you positive encouragement or steer you in the right direction. And there's also a difference I notice with myself. Sometimes I find myself too attached to the mode of goodness, where I'm like, I'm just encouraging you, Prabhu. It's okay, we're going through the struggles, we're all there. But sometimes you need to get the softs, and tell you, no, Prabhu, it's not going right. You got to try a different way, and just try to give it up. And obviously give pointers where one can get rid of those not so positive activities. But I find some of you may know Mandala Rama, but she kind of lives in the community around here, and she's really good at giving the sauce when I need it. And I have many devotees who are who can tell me as it is, and for us to not let our ego step in, and even if it might not seem right or it doesn't seem just, but take the essence out of whatever constructive criticism or criticism we may get from senior devotees or anyone in our life. It doesn't even have to be devotees, but anyone who we meet that somehow bring a point up. See, okay, yeah, I can improve on that point. And I remember just someone at my work was saying, you say, because I'm trying to explain like philosophy of Krishna consciousness to him, and I'm saying, and then he just said, he reiterated that back to me, you say that a lot, and I was like, okay, something I have to, I'm doing it again, impress in my mind that there's just these little things that we can always improve on, and what to speak of the bigger things that need to work on, definitely. So thank you so much on this. So nice to see you also. I really hope sometime soon, whenever COVID lets up, me and my family can come travel to Vancouver and see the wonderful temple there. I've actually never been, so maybe I'll also get to see all of my new friends from the sacred space who reside in Vancouver and Calgary and that end of Canada. So anyone else have any sort of
Oh, I think you're muted, Prabhu.
Sorry, I guess I'm muted. But technology, there's so many. It's a great positive that we all could come together right now and spend some time in this sacred space. So if anyone has any other reflections, questions, or thoughts, any struggles also that they may be going through, this is a safe space where we can confide in devotees. And this is ultimately what this initiative is for, is to be able to facilitate for the youth to come together and make genuine friendships that we can open up, be, and relate to each other. We're all going through so much. It's really a weird time in life where we can't have personal association. We can't get together with our friends and go to the mall and hang out or go out on Harinam. But we have to be innovative, and this is what this program facilitates us, where we can somehow get together and just have next discussions, be open, and don't be afraid to question. Also, this is what we should all learn to do in Krishna consciousness: is question anything that we really have. Ultimately, this knowledge is sound because it's coming directly from Krishna, but for our own understanding and our own ability to be able to share it with others, it's good that we understand it clearly. And it's like when you sharpen an axe, you don't just sharpen one side of it, you got to sharpen both sides. So we have to know the philosophy, but then also know how it applies in our life. And then you have a clear cut where you can really drill the points home and be able to assist people in their struggles. Like, it's amazing how this topic, breaking bad habits, that there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that's totally related to it. And I'll read it just for the devotees' pleasures. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sensed objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, they are fixed in consciousness. So the Bhagavad Gita is very relatable. If we just take some time every day to read a chapter, get on the CHAD program. It's an underground association, just like this one. That's actually all over the world, that devotees read a chapter a day, only 10 or 15 minutes every year. You'll have unlimited and immense benefit from just doing that simple practice. It's highly recommended and reaps the highest rewards as well. So I'm not sure how we're doing on time here. Maybe we got about 8 more minutes. Maybe we could do 1 or 2 more reflections or questions.
I wanted to mention,
if anyone has anything. Yes, please.
Yeah, based off of what Jessica
Shruti.
had. Yeah, Haribol. Yeah, I wanted to say something based off of what Amit and Jessica had said in terms of associating with the kind of people that we do. And I think that is so important in the sense that, so I've noticed this with myself. A few years ago, I used to be around people who they used to act like they were like two-faced. They used to act like they were supporting me, but there was always that underlying jealousy and all that. So that actually motivated me a lot. And I didn't even realize that I just slowly stopped, working towards my goals, and even in terms of my spiritual goals and all, I just slowly stopped. And there came a point where I was just completely separated from Krishna consciousness. And I didn't even realize when that happened, because I just slowly started distancing myself from it, because every time I would talk about it or, mention that I'm going to the temple or something, I would get judged. So I think that's really important I sent in the chat that discrimination is important, that I think it's really important to understand what kind of people you're hanging out with. And then when I realized that, these people were toxic, I stopped spending time with them, and I decided to focus on my spiritual goals and all. And that's when that sort of changed my vibration. So I started attracting people who were genuine and genuinely supporting me, and they were always uplifting others around them. So I think that when you change your habits, like, you get people who support those. When you decide to focus on yourself, you automatically attract people who are also on that same path, and they just want to support everyone around them, that kind of thing. Like right now, I've been having, everyone I talk to these days, they're so supportive, and I do the same. I support them with their goals and whatever they like to pursue. So I think, yeah, that is really important, the associating with people. And also, I think that's also a habit, the kind of people that you attract, because I know someone who keeps hanging out with a group of people who are very they're filled with drama and the gossip and all of that, right? And then she keeps coming back to me and saying that, oh, I don't like it. I don't like the atmosphere. But she keeps going back to them, which is like a habit. That's just her habit. So I thought that was interesting.
Many nice realizations from your own life that, yeah, this jealousy and gossip is kind of all pervading in this age. Kali Yuga means the age of hypocrisy and quarrelsome. So there's a lot of this going on. But yeah, it goes to speak for that, the mantra effect, that the sound vibration that we listen to really affects our consciousness. So whatever the quality of the sound vibration that we listen to will develop the quality of our life. So we have to, yeah, be in that association, like you're speaking, that positive vibration. It helps one feel uplifted. It creates motivation, enthusiasm, and ultimately love. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to be around. And just like you were saying with your friend there, that she wants to be away from it, but she just keeps falling back into that association because she doesn't know what else is there. So bring her to the temple. I don't know her background, but bring her to the temple. Bring her into association where people are more positive, and they can also help encourage her in a positive way. And hopefully that will bring some benefit to her life. But yeah, this gossip and drama is all around. So somehow we have to find a way to hone in on the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam or any of these spiritual literatures, because ultimately these are spiritually uplifting books. And even if we're in that type of atmosphere where this sort of sound vibration is going on, it's not going to drag us down into it, because we're completely fortified. It won't phase us. Ultimately, it goes in one ear and out the other when we start to hear these things, because internally our consciousness is fixed on a higher sound vibration, where then this lower sound vibration doesn't penetrate into the heart, and then it doesn't change the heart because we're filled up with Krishna consciousness. So this is what we want to do, is fill our cup up full, and then have it overflow and fill out and spill that out to others. This is how we should try to fill ourselves up, by reading, by hearing, by associating, and then we'll be able to pour more out to our friends, loved ones, and anyone that we meet. So sorry, we got some ruckus going on in the background. I think it's getting to be lunchtime, so the baby's making some noise, and I think we're just getting ready to start cooking. So I think it's about that time, and it was a great pleasure to meet all of you and spend some time with you. I really appreciate this opportunity, Radhapriya, and everyone else who's facilitating and coming to these events. It's a really important service that you guys are doing just by being here, supporting these events for youth to get together and feel encouraged, safe, and find a way to be happy through these strange times. So Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mandala Ram, for joining us and facilitating this event, as well as giving us another perspective on how to break this cycle of habits, and allowing us to reflect on our own experiences and share what we're going through and how we can all relate to each other. I think it's really important to share our experiences and relate, and then it allows our association to dig deeper into what our actual goals are. And so thank you so much again for facilitating this session.